Nintendo Virtual Boy. In 1995, Nintendo decided to leap into the future of gaming, or at least what they thought was the future. The Virtual Boy was pitched as a portable 3D console, something no one had ever seen before. It wasn't like the Game Boy. Instead, it sat on a tabletop stand, and you had to lean forward and press your face into a pair of goggles that displayed stereoscopic images. Sounds futuristic, right? Well, there was one big problem. It only displayed graphics in red and black. Nintendo claimed the monochrome visuals were chosen to keep costs down and reduce eye strain, but the result was the opposite. Many players reported headaches, dizziness, and nausea after just a short session. The library didn't help either. Only 22 games were ever released in North America and Japan combined. Titles like Mario's Tennis and Wario Land tried to show off the 3D effect, but the novelty wore off quickly. Despite Nintendo's marketing muscle, the Virtual Boy became one of the company's biggest commercial failures, selling less than 1 million units before being discontinued after just a year. Today, it's remembered as a fascinating what if, a bold attempt at VR before the technology was anywhere close to ready. Bud Light BL6. When people talk about crazy consoles, they usually mean strange design choices or risky gimmicks. But in 2020, Bud Light took that idea to a whole new level with the BL6, a video game console that also doubled as a beer cooler. This wasn't some cheap promotional toy either. The BL6 looked like a giant blue six-pack of Bud Light cans, but hidden inside was a functional gaming PC running Windows 10, complete with a built-in projector for display. It came preloaded with a selection of games, including Tekken 7 and Soul Calibur 6, and even had 2 controllers stored neatly in its side compartments. But its biggest selling point was that the front compartment could hold and chill 2 actual beer cans while you played. The entire thing was designed as a marketing stunt, with only a handful ever made, auctioned off to raise money for charity. The BL6 wasn't meant to compete with Xbox or PlayStation. It was meant to get attention, and it worked. The absurd combination of gaming hardware and drink cooling made headlines everywhere, cementing the BL6 as one of the strangest, most over-the-top console ideas ever to actually be built. Nokia Engage. In 2003, Nokia decided it could take on Nintendo and Sony in the handheld gaming market, but with a twist. Instead of building a dedicated game console, they released the Engage, a hybrid device that was both a gaming handheld and a mobile phone. It sounded brilliant. Why carry 2 devices when one could handle calls, texts, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? But in practice, the design was bizarre. The most infamous flaw was the side talking problem. To make a call, you had to hold the Engage sideways against your head, with the thin edge pressed to your ear and mouth. Swapping games wasn't much better. You had to remove the back cover, take out the battery, and then insert a new game card. That meant turning off your phone every time you wanted to switch games. The game library had a few standouts, but most titles felt like watered-down ports of console hits. Coupled with a high price and clunky design, the Engage flopped hard, selling only about 3 million units before Nokia pulled the plug. Still, its ambition to merge 2 worlds makes it one of the craziest and most awkward console experiments ever attempted. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you've heard of any of these before. Laser Active. In 1993, Pioneer decided gaming needed a touch of home theater luxury, and they went all in with the Laser Active. This was a full-fledged Laserdisc player, the kind you'd find in a high-end living room setup, but with the right expansion module, it could also play games from the Sega Genesis, Sega CD, and even NEC's TurboGrafx-16. The idea was to merge cutting-edge video playback with multiple gaming platforms in one extravagant machine. The Laser Active cost a staggering $970 at launch, and that didn't include the game modules. Each add-on, called a pack, cost hundreds more. Then there were the Laser Active exclusive games on giant laser discs, many of which were interactive movies heavy on full motion video and light on actual gameplay. Titles like Pyramid Patrol and Space Berserker were flashy but shallow, a common problem with FMV-based games of the era. While Pioneer marketed it as the ultimate entertainment hub, the price tag and niche appeal doomed it from the start. Only around 10,000 units were ever sold worldwide. Today, it's remembered less as a gaming revolution and more as one of the most over-the-top and impractical console ideas ever to hit store shelves. Nintendo Labo VR Kit. In 2019, Nintendo took its already unconventional Labo line, DIY cardboard kits for the Switch, and pushed it into even stranger territory, virtual reality. The Nintendo Labo VR Kit invited players to build their own VR headsets entirely out of cardboard, slotting the Switch into the front to act as the screen. No straps, no high-end lenses, just hold it up to your face and peek inside. The kit came with multiple buildable parts, a blaster for shooting games, an elephant head for painting in 3D space, even a wind pedal you stepped on to create in-game gusts of air. It was playful, creative, and pure Nintendo. But in terms of technical performance, it was very, very basic. The Switch's 720p display split between 2 eyes meant the resolution was low, and without a head strap, longer play sessions were unlikely. Still, the Labo VR kit wasn't trying to compete with Oculus or PlayStation VR. It was a toy, one that blurred the line between crafting and gaming, and gave younger players a safe, affordable way to experience VR for the first time. It may not have been cutting edge, but as far as crazy ideas go, it was peak Nintendo. PSX. In 2003, Sony released one of the strangest PlayStation products ever, but only in Japan. The PSX looked nothing like a traditional console. It was a sleek, white set-top box designed to be a centerpiece of your living room, and it combined a PlayStation 2 with a fully functional digital video recorder. You could play PS1 and PS2 games, watch DVDs, record TV shows to its hard drive, and even edit and burn your own DVDs, all from one device. Sony envisioned it as a premium all-in-one hub that would replace multiple electronics in the home. It even featured a redesigned user interface and built-in memory card storage, making it more streamlined than a standard PS2. But that ambition came at a cost. The PSX launched for the equivalent of around $700 to $900 USD, far more than most people were willing to pay for a game console in 2003. It also suffered from limited marketing and the fact that many buyers didn't fully understand what it was. While the hardware was impressive, sales were underwhelming, and the PSX never left Japan. Today, it's remembered as one of Sony's boldest experiments, a strange fusion of gaming and home media that was just too far ahead of its time. Mattel Hyperscan. In 2006, Mattel decided to jump back into the video game market for the first time since the Intellivision days, but with a twist no one saw coming. The Hyperscan was a low-cost console aimed at kids, built around a gimmick that combined gaming with collectible trading cards. Each card contained an RFID chip, and by scanning it on the console's built-in reader, you could unlock characters, power-ups, or special abilities inside the game. It launched with a small library, including titles based on popular franchises like X-Men and Ben 10. The concept was that kids would keep buying booster packs of cards, much like a trading card game, to expand their in-game options. On paper, it sounded like an early version of the Toys to Life trend that Skylanders and Amiibo would later make huge. In reality, the Hyperscan was slow and cheaply built. The games themselves were shallow and glitchy, and the card scanning process was frustrating. Combined with the fact that it was competing against the Nintendo Wii and DS at the time, it didn't stand a chance. The Hyperscan vanished within a year, becoming a forgotten relic of Mattel's most ambitious and strangest gaming gamble. APF Imagination Machine. In 1979, during the early home console boom, APF Electronics decided to create something truly different, a hybrid that was both a video game console and a fully functional personal computer. The result was the APF Imagination Machine, a two-piece system. The base was the APF M1000 game console, which played simple cartridge-based titles, but by attaching the massive Imagination Machine module, you transformed it into a full-blown computer. This add-on included a full-size keyboard, extra memory, a basic programming language cartridge, and the ability to connect to a cassette drive for saving and loading programs. The pitch was that families could buy a fun game console for the kids and then upgrade it into an educational computer for the whole household. It was an ambitious idea, but it came at the wrong time. The system was expensive, and competing computers like the Apple II were far more capable. Meanwhile, the gaming side couldn't compete with the rising popularity of the Atari 2600. APF's hybrid vision was ahead of its time, blending work and play in a way modern devices take for granted, but the market simply wasn't ready. Today, it's a fascinating example of how bold ideas can miss simply by being too early. VTech Creative Vision. In 1981, VTech, a company better known for educational toys, released one of the strangest hybrids of the early gaming era, the Creative Vision. It looked like a standard game console, with a cartridge slot in the middle and two detachable controllers. But here's where it got weird. The controllers could be slotted side by side into the front of the console to form a full keyboard. This meant that Creative Vision wasn't just for gaming, it doubled as a home computer. The system could run educational software, programming tools, and even word processors alongside its game library. It supported peripherals like cassette recorders, floppy drives, and even a modem, turning it into a multi-purpose machine years before that was standard. In theory, this versatility made it a family's all-in-one tech hub. In practice, the games were limited, the keyboard setup wasn't great, and the computer functions lagged behind dedicated competitors. Still, the Creative Vision sold in multiple regions, including Australia, Europe, and parts of Asia, earning a cult following for its quirky design. Today, it's remembered as one of the most ambitious do-everything consoles of the early 80s, a bold attempt to merge gaming and productivity long before the idea was mainstream. Vectrex. In 1982, when most consoles relied on hooking up to a TV, the Vectrex broke every rule by including its own built-in screen. Instead of using standard raster graphics like the Atari 2600, the Vectrex used vector graphics, sharp glowing lines that gave its games a distinctive arcade-like look. The visuals were crisp and fluid, perfect for space shooters and wireframe style games, and unlike anything players had seen at home. The console's black and white display relied on translucent color overlays that you placed over the screen, adding a splash of personality to each game. The Vectrex also had a self-contained design, built-in monitor, integrated controller storage, and a compact shape that felt more like a personal arcade cabinet than a living room console. Critics praised its originality, but its timing was disastrous. The Vectrex launched just a year before the video game crash of 1983, and sales dried up almost immediately. By 1984, it was discontinued. Still, its daring all-in-one approach and unique graphics have made it a cult favorite among collectors, proof that sometimes the craziest console ideas are also the most beautiful failures. Which one do you think is the craziest? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.